Look, this is my flower hall. One of the things I love about living here is that the flowers are plentiful, they're fresh, they're grown locally, and it's so beautiful. So I often find that when there's beauty on the outside, it's easy to feel the beauty on the inside. And I wanted to talk about why I live in Mexico, and not just why I live in Mexico, but in Chiapas in particular, which is the southernmost part of Mexico. So back in the day when California in the States was a part of Mexico or Spain, this part of Mexico used to be a part of Guatemala. And I used to live in Guatemala also. And Guatemala is one of the first places where I realized how much natural beauty on the outside just like brings out the inner beauty on the inside. It's just so easy. And when there's so much beauty, like flowers and hummingbirds and just like nature growing wild, you can spend beauty like a currency. You can just like pick a bunch of flowers and put them in a fountain and then replace them the next day. Here I also tend to use a lot of rosemary and ruta, which is a type of, well, in English it's rue. These are herbs that you can use for like magical purposes and also to clean yourself energetically. And in other parts of Mexico, I don't see flowers like this. I don't see rosemary and ruta like that. And here it's the land of the Maya. Same within Guatemala is the land of the Maya. I used to live in New York City and I knew that I was psychic and I knew I was very intuitive, but I didn't quite know how to grow that. And for me, just being in Guatemala, just physically being there helped me grow so quickly in an insane amount of time. I think because the land of the Maya, the energy of the Maya really supports intuition, really supports living one with the land. And as you probably know, like when you're in nature, being one with the land, it's easier for you to be in your intuition. And here I live in a really rural setting. I literally live in a cabin in the woods. And sometimes there's issues with that as well. But in general, I find it such an amazing gift. There are sheep in the backyard. Once or twice a week, a Mayan shepherdess comes with her flock of sheep in what is sort of like my front yard. I can't tell you what it does to you, like your psyche, your sense of yourself, your being, to relate to sheep a lot. And to have your tried and true neighbor be a Mayan shepherdess, because sometimes you talk to her, sometimes you don't. But like that is the person you're relating to. And the person who has a very traditional lifestyle, whose pace of life you can feel in her being, and also her mother, is the pace of what the sheep need or want. They're attuned to the sheep. They're attuned to nature. And it just changes you. When I lived in New York City, if it rained, I almost didn't know, or I didn't care, because I would just like run from my office building into the subway and I'd live my life indoors or underground easily. Here, if you hang your laundry out to dry, and it rains a lot over here, you really have to learn how to like read the air. You have to read the humidity in the air, like the wind, how the clouds are moving, this kind of thing. You can still be surprised, but in general, there's a huge sense of confidence you develop in yourself when you realize you can read the weather way better than some sort of like weather app, for sure. And when you can read the weather almost like down to the minute, which I believe many times I can, though of course there's still surprises, it really changes you. And so being a former city girl, living in one of the most mega cities in the world, New York City, and having like an ego around it too. Like I went to an Ivy League university. I worked in an office in Times Square. I had one of those kinds of lifestyles. And the kind of thing that happens when you live in a place like that, everyone's doing something. Like every other person you meet either is a fashion designer and has a show for Fashion Week, or is a model and is walking Fashion Week, or your friend is a hairstylist and they're doing Fashion Week, or your friend is a filmmaker and they just came back from some film festival where they were showing their film, or another person like won some award because their app did something. Like it's really easy to know people like that, where you kind of know each other through your accomplishments and not the sense of just you being human, which I find is endemic here. Like here, you're just human. You just spend some time with someone sharing a tamale because you're human. Today, I was walking down the street And I saw my neighbor and I was like, hi. And it's so easy to make eye contact and be open like that. Hi. And he was like, hello, very formal guy. Hello, good afternoon. And a short while later, he's like, oh yeah, kind of like, hey. He's like, I want to invite you to a fiesta we're having in honor of San Nicolas. Here, if it's your saint's day, it's a big day. And if it's the saint's day of the neighborhood you live in, it's a big deal. I was very touched. And one of the reasons I have these flowers is they're going to be a gift. And I love that you can just openly make eye contact with people, say hello, it's safe. They're not going to be like, what do you want from me? You know, which is like totally a New Yorker thing. Like, what do you want from me? Like you are making me walk 1 microsecond slower than I want to. You have no value in my life, you know? And I understand that. I've lived there for a very long time and understand that every second of your life is very precious. Do not slow me down, you know? And here you are slow, you know? You go at the pace of what feels like real human life, and they don't care what my accomplishments are. You know, I have human value because of just being, and also here because of the language. There's some sort of needing to have to either read people's energy or come from a heart open place. Spanish is my 5th language that I've learned to a proficiency or fluency level. Mexican Spanish is the 3rd iteration of Spanish I've been exposed to. So I am now speaking the 3rd iteration of my 5th language. Even though I love languages and I'm actually quite good at learning them, I've probably on purpose decided to not learn Spanish to a university plus fluency level because I like to check out. I love just walking down the street and just being able to check out and not having to understand every single word that someone's speaking to on their cell phone. In the States, I don't have this luxury and it's very painful. Like every single thing, every kind of noise anyone makes, I understand. And not only do I have to compute it with my mind, which uses my mind in a way that takes me away from my intuition, it's a lot of input, it's a lot of data. And here I can just kind of like tune out and I really like it. And if I were even more fluent, I wouldn't be able to tune out. And therefore, yes, I pay some kind of cost. If I'm having some sort of intense conversation about my deep philosophical things, it can be a little bit hard, but I can still have 2-hour-long conversations with my friends who only speak Spanish. And because of the intuition, we get each other and there's like a heart open like love that's not as possible if I'm speaking English. My Spanish is at the level where I can teach in Spanish and give sessions in Spanish. But it also depends on who I'm talking to. I usually respond to the energy of the person. So if the energy of the person is kind of like mixed or closed, my Spanish goes down. If the energy of the person is clear and open, my Spanish is like almost perfect. It's crazy. And what's really interesting is in Chiapas, because it's Mayan, a lot of people are here, specifically here, speak Tzotzil. So like Spanish is their 2nd language. Therefore, the Spanish in the air isn't as strong for me. And when I go to other parts of Mexico, my Spanish automatically improves overnight because the only language spoken is Spanish and there's no indigenous population. So for me, living here where there's an indigenous population, where there's Mayan people who are so close to my heart. When I lived in Guatemala and lived in a very small Mayan village, I became basically who I am, you know, who I was when I lived in New York was not who I was. And I feel very supported by, I feel so grateful to the energy of the Maya. And here I get to live amongst them and be supported by just their energy. And I feel that in living here, I'm respecting my intuition, I'm respecting my energy body, and I feel supported by just the natural substrate beliefs of the people who happen to be here. You can get a lot of hostility in the West, kind of like you're psychic, you know, prove it, you know, or like, are there like scientific studies proving that chakras exist? I have literally heard those hostile comments from people, and here you wouldn't hear anything like that. And so For me, being able to be a child again, where I don't really understand everything and people give me a pass and people explain things to me, very simple things like, this is this name of cheese here, this is that name of cheese here. But if you go to this state, the names of the cheese changes. And you're like, oh, wow. Like that level conversation, I feel people are open-hearted enough to have here and they want to share with you. I feel like my animal body feels very safe here in a way that is not possible in a place like the States. In a place like the States, there's a lot of professionalism and there's a very low trust. So even if someone says, hey, could I borrow your pen? Whoa, that's really out of line. And you wouldn't want someone, why are you asking for my pen? What's wrong with you? Why don't you just, like there's a lot of self-sufficiency to the point of mental illness. Here, you could easily ask someone to borrow their pen, easily. And no one's gonna look at you with suspicion. And so I feel like that open-heartedness that is a part of the culture here that I get to partake in, the slower pace of life where the real people I interact with go at the pace of their sheep. And I get to interact with sheep, where sometimes I go into my kitchen at nighttime and the sheep in our backyard are like, what are you up to? What are you doing? And they're like looking at me and I'm making eye contact with them and they're like rubbing their chin along the windowsill. And it's the kind of interaction that obviously is not possible if you live in the city and really resonates with a part of you that is one with the world, not one with the ideas of the world, not one with concepts, For example, a lot of people are into like, let's say psychology and they're into concepts, my attachment style is this. No, that really takes you out of your intuition, really takes you out of the moment. There's a place for that. It's helpful in many ways. But for me, not so much. For me, I like to think nothing. I like to just be. I like to not feel rushed. I like to respect the present moment and hold the present moment. I like to have heart-to-heart interactions with people where they just read me and they like me. And it doesn't matter if I just came back from some sort of like VR and short film festival and I did something. Again, that's like a concept. Here, it's hard to explain, but I feel very, very grateful. And this ability to be a child again, where I'm considered new to the culture. I'm not expected to know all the rules. The limits of my language ability force people to have to relate to me through heart energy. I enjoy it quite a bit. And I enjoy being able to be kind of like weird and silly. Like today it was raining really hard when I got these flowers and I asked the lady who was wrapping the flowers for me, I'm like, could you please wrap the faces of the flowers really well? And I said it in Spanish. I was like, could you please? And that's obviously some sort of like persona or energy I would not display in the West so easily, right? And I like being supported in that here. I like my inner child being supported here. I like feeling welcomed here. I like feeling safe here. There are so many aspects of the culture I really enjoy and I love, but I wanted to specifically talk about how being here supports my intuition, my energy body, the physical safety that my body feels in day-to-day life. Like, do you know how on edge you feel living in a place like New York City versus do you know how relaxed you feel living in a place like the forest where I live? And just the unique people that I get to interact with, some of whom are Mayan, and I'm so grateful to the Mayan people, and have that energy, intuition, pace of life, relationship to nature that is so amazing and is not even available in other parts of Mexico. So I wanted to share that. Thank you for listening. And I'll talk to you next time. Bye.